these people?
The new Australian Prime Minister is squandering his leverage on Assange. And I don't know if you've been paying attention to Miss Misty Winston or, Andrew Zygmunt over at A4A talking about this. And this is by Joe Lauria over at Consortium News, who, after their whole PayPal debacle, people should be giving them some donations, help out. Anthony Albanese, the newly elected Australian Prime Minister, may have passed up the best opportunity he will ever have to exchange Julian Assange freedoms for Australia's continued cooperation with U.S. aims in the Pacific region. Albanese had his first bilateral meeting on Tuesday with U.S. President Joe Biden at the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue Summit in Tokyo, when the leaders of the four nations, Australia, India, Japan, and the U.S., met to discuss relations with China. Reports on the Biden-Albanese one-on-one make no mention of Assange. At the opening of their meeting, Biden launched a charm offensive that Albanese ate up, the Melbourne Daily The Age reported. The way Joe Biden greeted Anthony Albanese on Tuesday suggested the U.S. President and Australian Prime Minister will get along just fine. Biden pointed to Albanese as soon as he saw him arrive for the official photographs of the Quad Leaders Summit on Tuesday. The president put a hand on his arm, greeted him with a warm smile, smelled his hair, and then began. Once the formalities were over, Biden drew Albanese in close again. He put his arm over Albanese's shoulder as they walked towards the meeting room, and he got one more sniff. In fact, Biden handed up to make sure everyone knew the relationship between the U.S. and Australia was in safe hands on both sides of the Pacific. Later, in their formal bilateral meeting, when Albanese spoke about his travel across the U.S. as a young man and reveled he had met with the NRA, Biden jokingly stood up, pretending to leave their bilateral talks in disgust. Albanese burst out laughing, as did most others in the room, before Biden reached out to shake his hand. "You're a brave man," he said. Much of the substance of their bilateral was telegraphed in advance, and it did not include Assange. In remarks Monday before he left for Japan, Albanese had already said that his Labour government is fully on board with the Quad's agenda, as the previous government of Scott Morrison's had been. More importantly, Albanese said Australia would sign on to Biden's just-announced creation of a new 13-nation Asian economic bloc aimed at opposing China's economic dominance in the region, according to reports in the Australian and the Sydney Morning Herald. Biden had only just announced the new bloc on Monday before he was even sworn in. Albanese apparently told Biden Australia joining the bloc during a telephone conversation they had on Sunday as Biden flew to Japan. Albanese was quoted in the Australian as saying that he would send a message to the world that there's a new government in Australia, while reassuring partners there would be continuity in the way they have respect for democracy and the way that we value our friendships and longtime alliances. That's very much a public and private position there, guy. Albanese also spoke with British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, the Herald reported. Albanese spoke to UK counterpart Boris Johnson while flying to Tokyo on Monday. A spokesman described the conversation as friendly and positive. The discussion with Johnson, including a commitment from Albanese to support the AUKUS alliance on nuclear submarines and talks on climate change. Thoughts so far? Anything in particular other than yay for, yeah, pretty much. Essentially says like, hey, I'll be in lockstep, that's what I hear. So,
another day, another puppet.
Yep. Oh, it's not even a fun puppet. There's no sympathetic movement or googly eyes, But apparently, asking for nothing in return, Albanese gave away the store to Biden and Johnson, not even raising Assange's name. According to these reports, he had the leverage of asking Biden to drop the case and Johnson to block the extradition in exchange for continuity from the Morrison government on AUKUS, the Quad, and on joining Biden's new economic bloc. So essentially, yeah, you sold them, you gave them all the free stuff. You were like, here you go, here's the free stuff. Of course, not everything discussed between the leaders was reported. There remains an outside chance Albanese did range Assange in his conversations with Biden. But there has been no movement on Assange after Albanese gave Biden and Johnson what they wanted. At his bilateral with Biden, Albanese may have had one piece of leverage left. Biden's remark Monday that the U.S. would military defend Taiwan broke with previous U.S. and Australian policy, The Guardian reported Monday. Just 6 months ago, Labour criticized the then Defence Minister Peter Dutton for telling the Australian newspaper it would be inconceivable that we wouldn't support the U.S. in an action if the U.S. chose to take that action in Taiwan. So, yeah, we're just giving away the house, pretty much. If Biden asked Albanese to reverse Labor's policy and commit to military action against China over Taiwan, a very serious request, did Albanese raise the subject of Assange? Afterward, he told reporters, I confirm there's no change in Australia's positions. There should be no unilateral change to the status quo. Our position has not changed. Could you put that any more bluntly? Like, literally, the status quo will be fine. That's what he said. When British Home Secretary Priti Patel's decision on extradition imminent, it may have been Albanese's best chance to make good on his past comments that enough is enough and that Assange should be freed. So, I have to pull away from our thing here for a second and hit F11 so I can see my tabs. Andrew over at A4A, right, is talking about this particular petition that needs to publicly reach the desk of the Australian MP. So it's this one, which I will put the link for in chat. Where is it at? I'm looking for it. Signed journalist statement. I think it's in this one, right? Yeah, this one. Speakupforassange.org, and I'll throw that in the restream chat here. But yeah, we have that. We have Misty, friend of the show, Comrade Misty, giving us the contact information for Albanese here, if people still wanted to call and harass him. That phone is 02, the country code 9564-3588. Or you can fax him, which I think is an even better choice in some respects. 02-9564-1734. So there's phone and fax for the Parliamentary House Office at 02-6277-4022, and their fax 02-6277-8562. But yeah, if we could just get him out of there at this point. How do we send like files to Belmarsh? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
but it makes sense because in a twisted way, but like, Assange, if Assange was able to expose the US for their war crimes, there's, that's implication of, Australia too. So they have as much of a reason for him to essentially, like, I'm going to say it, like, kill him, than just as much as the US does. So it's not surprising that, they're not saying anything regarding Assange because it's an implication of them too. So it's just like, we want this to go away and we will support you, in what you choose to do. So not surprising there.
Yeah. Yeah. But everyone should go sign the petition, I think, at least. I made sure to call Priti Patel and the Home Office and the DOJ. So everyone should have also done that when Misty asked you to. If Misty asked you to do something, just do it at this point. Like, just do it. Just do that thing. But anyway,